2020 has been one of the craziest years we have seen in a very long time, and it makes you realize just how good we've had it for so long in America. I mean, we've been cruising along, playing games, partying it up for decades, without any world crisis affecting our day-to-day lives, and then all of a sudden, a global virus sweeps the globe and forces everybody into a new world that we are all still struggling to adjust to. Hopefully, the global pandemic will not last tremendously longer, and we can lose the masks, start going to bars again, possibly by the end of the year. Who knows if it's going to be longer than that? But needless to say, this event has forever shifted the way many things are run and how we operate. It has also had one of the most devastating effects on our economy and the workforce than we have seen in a very long time. Since March of 2020, when quarantine went into full effect, more than 50 million people have filed for unemployment and have been forced out of work. Many of these people were laid off indefinitely, and some of these people were simply furloughed and have since gone back to work, but there's also a portion of the population that were called back to work for a short period of time, maybe a few weeks ago, maybe about a month ago, but as COVID cases quickly increased, many of those businesses have since been shut down yet again, leaving a lot of people out of work once again. Now, the lucky ones who work in industries that have the luxury of operating remotely have had a taste of just what may be the normal way of our work lives moving forward. When companies realize just how much money they can save by not renting out expensive and glamorous office spaces, many of these businesses will for sure go into full remote mode and run things strictly off the cloud. Now, a lot of these businesses are already strictly cloud-based, but a lot of tech companies and similar ventures still maintain an office space for their employees to have a place to bond, create a culture, and possibly entertain clients. I think a lot of this will change and shift fully remote. With the loss of so many jobs, we would have expected to see an immediate housing crisis in a situation where many people were defaulting on both mortgage payments as well as rent payments and were forced out of their homes simply because they lost their main source of income. But back in April, the government put in place a strict policy that forbid any landlords from moving forward with the eviction process for the following months, as well as any banks from foreclosing on homeowners. This basically means that since the beginning of April, we have had millions of people who have not been making their house payments, yet have continued to stay in the same house or apartment of which they are not paying for, and landlords have not been able to do a thing about it. Normally, if a tenant doesn't pay rent, the landlord will serve a 3-day notice to pay or quit within 10 or 15 days of the month, which basically means that they're going to post a notice on the door that says that the tenant has 72 hours to pay up and rent, or they have to start moving out. And then on the 4th day, they'll begin the eviction process so that they can boot out that non-paying tenant and bring in a paying tenant, but they cannot do that right now. This has surely been devastating for many landlords, and although many landlords are greedy, ultra-wealthy investors, many of them are simply small mom-and-pop type investors who only own one or maybe a few units and don't have those millions in reserves. Now, this is good news for tenants who have been able to skate by for the past few months rent-free, but terrible for our overall economy, as the same people who are investing in our communities are the ones being hit very hard right now. However, the free ride is about to come to an end for these tenants because at the end of July, this eviction and foreclosure policy ban comes to an end and landlords will be allowed to evict and progress with their normal business. This could be a huge problem for Americans at the beginning of August because we still have a ton of people out of work, unemployment and stimulus checks can only take the average American so far, and a lot of those are about to start drying up as well, and we're going to have a lot of people short of money with overdue rent bills and overdue mortgage payments the first week of the month. During the 2008 housing crash, more than 10 million people lost their homes and were forced elsewhere. Now, in 2020, it is estimated that the number of people that could be kicked out of their homes and lose their property could total over 28 million. That's 3 times more than in 2008, and we didn't even have a massive health scare to deal with back then. Now, we don't actually know if the number will be that high or if this is just speculation from experts, but needless to say that as long as the government doesn't end up extending the foreclosure and eviction policies, many people are going to find themselves in a sticky situation at the beginning of August. This is good and bad news for landlords. The good news is that for the ones who have been dealing with one or more non-paying tenants, they can now remove that tenant from their property and put it up for lease in hopes of finding a tenant who has more stability. The bad news is that with so many people laid off, furloughed, and without a strong source of income, the competition for finding quality tenants has just gone up. Not to mention that filing an eviction is a very costly process that can sometimes last weeks or even months in some states. And of course, they may have to pay for any renovations that need to be done, because most of the time when you evict a tenant, that tenant doesn't typically feel the desire to leave your property in the best condition, since they know you're probably coming after them financially anyways. We may be seeing some pretty substantial rent drops over the course of the next few weeks, as landlords are going to be forced into using price drops to compete for a shrinking pool of qualified residents, and will need as short of a vacancy time as possible in order to stay afloat. We could also very well see a full-on landlord crisis appear because of a combination of a shrinking pool of qualified renters, lots of lost rental income already, and a situation that may cause landlords to go months longer without any rental income. A lot of these landlords will not be able to weather the storm and could be foreclosed on. Now, the big question on everyone's minds is the housing market going to drop? Well, we don't know yet, and I won't dare speculate too much because we're living in crazy times and at a time where our government seems to have no issue pumping fiat money into the system and slowly destroying our currency. So we may be seeing more government help come into play, which would delay any sort of dip or crash until the future. But if we do see these policies dropped for good, banks have the green light to foreclose, landlords have the green light to evict, then we could see a situation where many people are forced to put their homes on the market, renters are forced out of their apartments, and people are foreclosed on quickly by the bank. Investors will have to race quickly to get their properties rent ready, hope the damages don't put them underwater, and hope that they're not one of the ones who is forced to sell or have their rental property taken by foreclosure. If this were to happen the way many experts are predicting, and homes hit the market at an extremely fast rate, then we would slowly shift into a buyer's market, and the increased inventory would slowly drop the value of each and every home on the market. Again, this is all speculation, and who knows what'll happen. Maybe we'll make crazy progress towards defeating COVID-19 in the next couple weeks, and people will quickly be called back to work. Maybe the eviction and the foreclosure policy bans will be extended, or maybe the government will just continue to print new money and pump it into the system so that the little man doesn't get squashed quite yet. But if we do decide to bite the bullet and take our losses in order to move forward, we could see a very big shift, and we may all of a sudden see a massive increase in homes on the market, both landlords who were hammered over the past couple months, as well as homeowners who simply can't make the mortgage payment on their primary residence. If this were to happen, we would see a massive opportunity for new real estate investors to get in the game and take advantage of the best opportunity in real estate we have seen over the last decade. Yes, many people will be hit hard and lose out big, but it is during the times of economic turmoil when the most opportunity is available, and if you're a young or new investor who's interested in investing in real estate, the coming months could be your prime opportunity. Or again, I could be wrong, which has happened in the past. We don't know for sure, but remember that the greatest fortunes of all time were all created during times of economic distress. That's when fortunes are up in the air, available for anybody with a little bit of drive and ambition to grab for themselves. So that's it, you guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. If anybody has any questions about real estate investing, or anything whatsoever, my contact info is here on the screen. I'd be happy to answer any questions or help anybody in any way I can. And of course, if you like the video, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button down below. Leave a comment if you have any questions or any suggestions for video ideas or topics that you want to hear me go over. And of course, if you want to join the community, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. Thank you so much and have a great day.